Now, one thing I want to point out about the converter, this is 120 amps. As you guys can see right here on the top of it, 120 amps that I have just for this system. This right here is not truly indicative of a stock system. This would be more like an aftermarket. This is when you have 120 amps dedicated to your system. So that means if your car came with a 100 amp alternator, that means you went and put a 220 in there. Contrary to popular belief, adding extra batteries isn't necessarily the best method when setting up your electrical system. A high output alternator can sometimes do the work of 2 or 3 batteries depending on what your system is. And a lot of times your stock alternator isn't even equipped with the internals that would actually allow it to run 2 or 3 extra batteries. So what you're really doing is putting extra strain on an already strained system. So what you would want to do is buy a high output alternator. And in this video, I'm going to explain why the high output alternator should probably be your first electrical purchase. I'm loving this. Now, one thing I want to point out about the converter, this is 120 amps. As you guys can see right here on the top of it, 120 amps that I have just for this system. Now, in your car, it's going to be a little bit different, okay? If your car came with a 150 amp alternator, you're not using all of that. All those amperes are not for you. A stock alternator only gives you 70, I think it's around 70 to 80% of that alternator's capacity is for the vehicle. You only have like a 10 or 15% reserve for anything extra. You know, just in case something wacky goes on, like something has a burst of energy or something. It gives you a little bit of reserve, but that's it. That's all a stock alternator is designed to do. If you want to get more out of it, if you put in a system in your car, in your vehicle, on stock alternator, you better have a lot of this stuff here going on. You need you some of these, you need you some of them. You're going to need some type of, probably some lithium batteries or something in the back to help that stock alternator out, because it ain't going to hold up for it. It's not going to give you an extra hundreds of amps. It's not going to give you that. If you got a 150 amp alternator, you may be getting 20 amps or so out of it before you start dipping into what the whole car system needs. So you're going to need to update or upgrade your alternator. If you know your system is going to pull 100 amps extra, just the radio. If this alone gonna pull 100 amps, then you need to take your 150 amp alternator and replace it with a 250 amp alternator or bigger. At least put a 200 in there. You understand what I'm saying? Because this system is gonna dim your headlights and all that old crazy stuff. And sometimes your headlights, depending on what kind of headlights you got, is gonna dim anyway. But anyway, long story short, this right here is not truly indicative of a stock system. This would be more like an aftermarket. This is when you have 120 amps dedicated to your system. So that means if your car came with a 100 amp alternator, that means you went and put a 220 in there. If your car came with a 200 amp alternator, that means you went out and got a 320 amp alternator in my case. You'll have 120 extra amps just for your system. You know, that's what that means. Please join me in the next video when I do a complete unboxing and demo of this new clamp meter that I have. This clamp meter is capable of measuring up to 1,000 amperes, and I think it'll be a great addition to the bench test. This clamp meter is going to allow us to see amp draw across all components of our car audio setup. And that way you guys will see and be able to tell the significance of a high output alternator in real time. Thanks for visiting the channel to help you simplify car audio. It's the Budget Basshead, and I'm out.